Hello and welcome to Embody You Mindset Mastery. I am redoing this recording because of a user error. Apparently, I didn't log into the right thing. So this is the new recording for Embody You Mindset Mastery done without anyone here. So it's just me hanging out in my office or in Palm Springs in my office, just chatting. So let's do this. All right. So thank you so much, number one, for listening to this recording and for being interested in what I have to say and what I can lend a hand to and what I can teach, for trusting in me for this next hour to just chat a little bit about life and about how I became embodied in my own body and in my own mind, how I started to cultivate a sense of peace, and how I could lend that on to you, some of that information. So let's get started here. So welcome again to Embody You Mindset Mastery. And this Embody You is all around what Emma Stone is saying here, that that we are unafraid to be ourselves, and that is what I'm setting out to do here, is to help women to be embodied in their soul and in their own 2 feet and unapologetically themselves. And that really truly stems from self-worth. So there is nothing more beautiful than a woman who is able to be completely unafraid to be herself. So you are in the right place. If you are struggling to explain your needs and your desires to your loved ones, if you feel there is a strong urge to show up bigger in your own life, if you put everyone else's needs above your own, and you've always done so, or perhaps you put other people's needs as more important in your own mind than your own, then you are in the right place. And if you have a passion for learning and want to move closer to your purpose, then you are absolutely in the right place. So what can you gain from today and from this next hour? What can I impart upon you? So completely different understanding of what self-love really is. It is really this kind of hip, new agey thing to be all into the self-love thing, and, like the yes queen, all that. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with that, but there's a lot of hype, and there's very little actual self-love around that. And I want to impart upon other people what it is to self-love yourself fully, whether you are in your low moments, your high moments, your queen moments, or in your moments where you're just needing to be in kind of like your cocoon and just going through that wave of emotion for that time. It's a completely new way of looking at yourself in relation to the world. You are not in the right place, and you can feel free to end the recording if you are any of these things. If you are more comfortable with staying in the same place as to avoid discomfort or change of any kind. Because when we go through change, it is going to be uncomfortable. There needs to be a breaking down before the change. So there will be discomfort, of course, as you listen through. But that being said, it is all part of the breakdown. If you are offended by spiritual or woo-woo, I am very spiritual, I'm very woo-woo, I am all the things. I like to encompass all of the things. And the reason why is because I study it, I understand it, and it speaks to me. So if it speaks to you, you are absolutely in the right place. If you aren't willing to face your flaws and your skills, so both. So you have both flaws, you have skills, and those flaws are part of the experience. Our skills and our beauty and all of these sorts of things, although important, they aren't everything. So that's something to consider there. If you get angry or offended when someone invites you to yet another training opportunity at the end of a 60-minute free presentation. So we did do a draw at the end for everybody who did make it. So that one has been claimed. So I'm sorry, but had you been there for that one, you would have been entered into the draw. That's how that works. So you have to catch the next one. So a little bit about me. So I am Christine Elliott. I am an energy healer, Reiki practitioner, master yoga instructor, a certified life coach, master educator, as well as a podcast host. I was diagnosed with cancer in August of 2020, and I started a wellness and jewelry business in 2018. So a little bit about me is that I've always been a wellness junkie. I've always loved it. It's always been really important to me. Outside of that, I've always really been into the woo-woo and all of the different energy healing modalities and all of those sorts of things. I fancied myself quite a wellness expert in a lot of ways. And then just recently I was diagnosed with cancer. And during that time, when I was diagnosed with cancer, I had to utilize all the tools that I had gained the past 10 years in my toolbox in order to aid myself in the growth and spiritual change that I needed during that time, and that support that I needed during that time. So the many hours that I spent learning and growing then aided in the most transitional period of my life, which just exponentially bursted after that, like the self-growth. I started seeing all the things that I had learned in the past as just completely different than I thought it was. Like I had an idea in my head of what it was like to be well, and I can see now so clearly that I really was quite far from the mark, and I had some really kind of backwards ways of thinking that I had been taught, or it was the way that I understood it anyway, within my context of life, that the world was when you were well and when you were happy and when you were free. And I can see now that that I wasn't necessarily free. I was just kind of in this to-do list all the time of constantly sort of fixing myself, if that makes a lot of sense. And so anyway, so when I utilized my lessons, I was able to integrate them with all of the past studies that I had done. And here I am on the other side of it. And, I am quite happy, and I do have a lot of really good things going on in my life, and I want to share them with you. So I started my wellness jewelry business in 2018, and in 2018 I thought that I wanted to help people with jewelry, and I still love crystal jewelry and healing, and I still impart it as part of my business today. But what I didn't understand was that there was something bigger. There was something outside of just the crystal jewelry that was missing. And I was too fearful to even admit it to myself that this was the place that I needed to be, and that helping people with education and coaching and all of those sorts of things, they are truly what propels me forward and sets my heart on fire. So, I see now that my jewelry business was a safer way of me doing the thing that I always wanted to do, which was help people. So now I've integrated both. I have both my crystal wellness jewelry as well as the coaching, which is truly what sets my heart on fire. Oh, so I suppose I already said this. So Year of Mindset Training helped me to learn that discomfort is not bad. It's part of the breakdown for the change. And it was uncomfortable, let me tell you. But I was able to look at it from a very different mindset because of the research that I had done and the studies that I had done. And that's what we'll learn here today. I was able to learn to accept all things as good, bad, who knows, meaning not putting judgment on, the good, the bad, and the who knows. Just because something seems bad doesn't mean that it's necessarily bad. With my cancer journey, what I truly have learned is that it seemed bad. It really did at the time. But I can see now so clearly that the bad is the reason I'm here, as I say. And I just think that there's something to that. Most of the time, these things that we label as bad, we come out the other side and suddenly it broke down something so that space could be cleared for something else. And I think that that fine change in your mindset can be really huge for the good, bad, and the who knows in your life. So my body healed. This gave me an entire new outlook on life. It helped me step into my true self. And that's what I want to help you do as well. So since then, since cancer and since all of the journey that I went through, my marriage has improved, my friendship has improved. I have begun doing things that I loved. I've learned how to say no and set boundaries. And I've learned how to step into my sensuality as a woman. And when it comes to this work, as I say, there was such a backwards way that I was coming at it, and that I believed that this work was really meant for this kind of top of the mountain that I was going to someday get to. And then that day I would be fixed and I would no longer feel ill emotions or anything like that. And that was my belief. And I can see so clearly now, as a result of my cancer, that when you arrive to this crest of the mountain, it has very little to do with whether or not you are now happy all the time, and very much to do with the fact that all things that are human, that is the isness of being human, become acceptable and become almost loved and cherished as just parts of you. And that's something that I really, truly did not understand. I thought that I needed to fix myself. And I think that's what a lot of these creative books on how to help yourself and grow as a person, they sort of missed the mark. So we'll talk about that in more detail as well. So if I can do it, you can do it too. So it's really important to note here that just because I have gone through the cancer doesn't mean that you need to go through cancer in order to be on the other side of this crest of the mountain that we're all seeking. You can absolutely 100% enjoy life as it is now, and you can utilize your situations that have happened to you for growth and lasting change. It doesn't need to be dire by any means. It can absolutely be just part of the process. Couple things to keep in mind is get out of your own way. So we will talk about this in more depth as I go. But it is important to note here that there is a degree of comfort in our struggle. And I know that's a little polarizing, but it's true. There is a little bit of a degree of comfort in our struggle. So it's important to note here that you do have to get out of your own way a little bit as you move through these changes, because things will pop up for you where it's like, oh, well, it must be nice for her. She can do that and I can't. Or, there was a time when that would have been available for me, but that isn't now, and those sorts of things. So these things that kind of spiral around in our head, it's really important to note here that it has very little to do with your actual success, and a lot of it is truly just in your own head. And when you say I cannot, it's a lot of to be a little in your face. A lot of the times it's a little more of a I don't want to. So please consider that throughout the training here. Okay, so let's break it down a little bit. So the 10, I feel like I need a light. I feel like it's getting dark. 1 second. Much better. Okay, so the 10 key components. So clarity, stories, compassion, presence, preservation, burning brightly, commitment, boundaries, intuition, and integration. So for those who haven't seen the ad that I was running before this, these are the 10 main components that I was able to break down that really set me free during my cancer journey. So things that really, that I really learned as I was going kind of the hard way, and that have really brought me to the other side. And what's important to note here about these steps is that they're going to sound really reminiscent. A lot of them are going to sound really reminiscent of a lot of the books that you've read in the past. And when it comes to these steps, yes, of course, they are a lot of the books that you've read in the past because it's worked for multiple people. But I do have changes in here that I have learned on each setting, to be honest, that I learned that I think that were really fine dial changes on the tuner that is the radio of my life. And they were just these really fine dial changes that made it suddenly clear that everything that I had always been learning, there was something missing. So as I say, these will sound really reminiscent of any law of attraction book or self-help book or psychology book that you've read in the past. So please don't be alarmed by that. That will be there. However, there will be slight changes in each one, as well as some in there that have never been, that I've never read anyway in a book, that I thought were really, really life-changing for me and life-altering for me. And once I learned these lessons, that is, as I say, truly when I became free. After 12 years of researching and thinking that I was doing it correct, I then found out after only 1 year of going through a really hard time that there was something really missing. So please listen in. This is really cool information. And it's, like I said, it truly has changed my life. So something to consider there. So to break these steps down, so we've got our first, let's see here, 4, they are examining. So this is all around examining our world and understanding our world around us, our inner world. Really important to note there, our inner world. Then from there, there's embody. And embody is when I start to really put things into action for you. So we've examined, we've learned, we've understood the inner workings of us as human beings. And then we move around to embody. And that's when the doing begins. And this is something that truly is missing from a lot of books. A lot of books tell you to do. But the problem is that there's something missing in that. There's an identity missing in that. So when you don't have the identity of the person that you would like to do the things, then what ends up happening is it becomes a willpower game. And that willpower game runs out. That extra oomph that you'd love to have, it dies out after a period of time. And then you are no longer in the doing stage, but you're kind of falling back and the ego is kind of telling you to stay safe and to not do so. So that's where the embody comes in, only after the examine, only after you've started to identify as that person, can that embody begin. So that's the doing. From there is embracing, because once you begin to embody the person that you'd like to be, you absolutely, your ego, again, it tells you to not embody that person. So we have to then embrace. So it's very much a 3-step process, and it very much needs to be sequential. So one thing after another. And again, this is what I examined for myself during my journey. So let's break them all down, starting with clarity. So when you set out to have a goal of any kind, now a lot of this is around goals, it is around happiness, it's around things that you'd like to have, and all of those sorts of things, all bringing you to the juncture of somebody who fully embodies themselves. So we will break it down from the standpoint of a person who would like to get to the goal of communicating their needs, okay? But this can apply for anything in life, okay? So with clarity, so what you have to do is become really, really clear on the goal that you want. And now something that is not well understood is most of the time in life, you have this autopilot running that's been taught to you by different programs and all of these sorts of things, TV, movies, friends, society, media, etc. And so you have this automatic program that says, I would like a husband, a wife, I would like to have lots of money. I would like to have good kids, those sorts of things. And I'm not saying that you don't want those things. A lot of us want those things, and there's nothing wrong with wanting those things. However, most of us don't get really, really clear on what that goal, that clarity would look like for us, and what that world would look like for us. So you do have to get a certain sense of clarity, and this does need to take some time. You need to get really, really clear on what it would look like for Chelsea to have the husband. What would that husband be like? What would that husband look like? What would that husband do? What would that, all of these sorts of things. And it's getting really clear on that, followed by the discomfort that arises always, which is the discomfort that says, no, you can't have that. You'll never have that. But being grateful to the discomfort and say, thank you, but I expect this. And then understand that your success is inevitable. And then from that point, it is when somebody whose success is inevitable, can they live life unapologetically without any apology. They can move forward and continue because their success is inevitable. So it's important to get clear. And clear can be done multiple different ways. It can be through visualization. It can be through writing. I find writing particularly a really good tool for me. It can be through discussing with friends, whatever it is. But you do have to get really, really clear on what do you want? Okay, that's easy. What does it look like for you? How would that goal integrate into your life? And what would you do? And then, most importantly, you have to begin to understand that this is a real possibility for you in the near future. And what would that actually look like? Really, like not just like watching a movie. Instead, what will you do in 5 months when you get that goal? Will you, I like using money as a really good example because it's easy and clear to understand. So if money was something that you wanted, then you need to start think about what you're actually going to do in 5 months' time when, this contract's up. Will you buy a huge item? Will you sign another contract? Will you upgrade? What will you do with that money once it's, and start to think of it in more of just not just like, oh, someday, no. You need to be clear on what your life what you will do differently. What will you, in a couple months, do you intend to sell that thing? Well, maybe you need to start looking into what it would be like to say, I no longer need this because I've upgraded, and those sorts of things. So that's clarity, getting really, really clear. So a question to consider is, what's the single biggest thing holding you back from living authentically? So is it the belief, in terms of the money example, that, in order to have money, you need to have grown up in Hollywood or California, and that's how you become famous. And for that reason, that's not you. So if that's the belief, then you're holding yourself back from money. The belief could also be that you are, you're curvy because your family was curvy, even though you'd like to be slim if that's what you want. And, you'd like to be slim, but it's not possible for you because of your family. If that is your belief, then that is your limiting belief, telling you exactly what you can and cannot have. And I know it sounds cliche, but it's true. What it really comes down to is that your subconscious mind, and we'll talk about subconscious, but your subconscious mind can only understand what you believe to be true. And your subconscious mind runs in the background as your automatic computer that runs the front computer. So like the mainframe that runs the computer, for example. So if your mainframe is telling you that you will never be slim, or that it's not possible for you, then your computer is like, well, 1 + 1 = 2. So I don't know what to tell you. And that's where that goes. So what are the stories that you're telling yourself? Which leads us very nicely into my next slide of what are the stories that you are telling yourself. So stories are, I hate to break it to you, They are the reason that you are or are not happy. They are the reason that you have or have not arrived. They are everything. Your stories run in the background. That's that subconscious mind as well as the conscious mind. And they do influence one another. So it's important to know that. But your stories, they create your reality. And if your story, I'll use my example, is that you are a nice Canadian girl from a small province that no one's ever heard of. And for that reason, you'll probably always be a nice small town little girl without any fame or fortune. That's a story that I told myself for years and years. And that held me back. Why would I show up and say to all of you, hey, I've got this masterclass and it's going to make a huge difference for you, if I believed that showing up would make me fail? And that's that subconscious, right? So, and your context is all going to be different. Like if you grew up in Saskatchewan, that's going to be a belief system that you understand. If you grew up in California, then you're going to have that belief system. And it's about getting out of our own way and recreating these stories. And it's uncomfortable at first because it seems impossible, but it also is sort of fun to change these stories and to understand that you make your life. You do. And the way that you make your life is by in my opinion, two-part series. Number one being that the law of attraction is always and has always been running. So you are attracting in and out of your life the different experiences to some degree. And that's another story. But anyway, so there's that. And then there's also the side of the subconscious brain. And that is, if you are confident, your head just lifts higher. And if you are not confident, your shoulders hunch and your head goes down. It is one of those subconscious things. You don't even realize you're doing it. Is that mainframe telling you you are not confident, so put your head down. So it's important to understand that your stories need to change. So a really good example is someone who wants to floss their teeth. If someone wants to floss their teeth and they would like to learn how to become a flosser, most of the time what they'll do is they'll change the floss. So they say, you know what, I'm flossing my teeth now. Maybe they go out, they buy a better kind of floss, different flavors and all those sorts of things, because we're materialistic. We buy all of our flosses, we're ready to go, but we haven't changed who we are as a person. So when you go to do that flossing all the time, your willpower lasts for the first 4 days and then drops off. And that's because the story in the background is that you are a non-flosser trying to become a flosser. Whereas if you made that razor's edge change in your mind to say that I am a flosser who flosses all the time, that is who I am. That is me to my core. That is me from this day until the end of days. This is who I am. I am now a flosser. And that whenever you miss it, it's not, I didn't get my flossing in today. It's instead, oh, how weird. I missed my flossing. I am a flosser. I normally do that. You know what I mean? And do you see how that just changes? And when you have that being, when you have that mind that says you are this, you are successful, you can communicate your needs, you are bold, you are powerful, and when you aren't, then it's just more of like interesting. That's not who I am. So today I must have, something just dropped. That's no problem. I'll pick it up tomorrow. As opposed to, I've been trying and I was doing so good. Now I'm failing and screw it. I won't be that person anymore, which is a really, really common way that our willpower drops off for us. So to circle back, it is the stories that we tell ourselves that determine our reality. And can you see that you do truly have to choose a different story? And as it says here, so most people are more comfortable being the victim because it means they get the love and attention that they are desiring. Your life is a direct mirror of the stories that you are telling yourself. And then the question to consider is, what is the most powerful story you could have, and how does it make you feel? So what I mean by victimization, so this is the part where I have to be a little bit in people's faces. There's a few parts, but this one especially. Your story is your opportunity to not move into discomfort. So a lot of people keep their stories on their sleeves like a badge of honor. You know, oh, I had this really hard life, and for that reason I am tough, and because I'm tough, I'm lovable. Or I don't need anybody would be another one. And those stories, although they do have a strength to them, I'm not saying that they're not, you know, that they don't have a place in some ways. But what I am saying is that when you're in constant subconscious mode of lack and of fear and of like, oh, I'm tough because the world is hard, then what you do is you perpetuate the world being harder. And I call that victim cuddles. You get these, like, you know, you talk about how bad it is, and then you get all this love, and it feels so good. So you perpetuate how bad it is so you can continue to get the love. And it makes sense. It's a clear formula, and I get it. But that being said, what ends up happening? What ends up happening is that you continue to move this victimization, and this victimization starts to perpetuate the life that you have. And then it's harder, but then warm cuddles, hard, warm cuddles, hard, warm cuddles, and then it's really freaking hard, warm cuddles, you know? And I think that we have to be really cognizant of the fact that, you know, that is the juice worth the squeeze? And I would say most of the time it's not, because you have to really sacrifice so much love and peace in your own heart in order to get these moments of warmth. And I get it. Like, I get it. When I was going through my cancer journey, I wanted nothing more than to just lap up the love. And there were times I needed to, and it was appropriate. But there were times where it wasn't. And I'm really pleased to say, I think I did a quite good job of saying, you know, I'm actually all right now. And this is, you know, this is going to be some blessings, and to see the good in it and the silver lining and those sorts of things. And it is my true and deep belief that the silver lining that I got from it is the fact that I am healed, I'm happy, I am growing, I am creating a business that I'm so proud of, and all of these sorts of things. And it was because I wasn't willing to be the victim. This is a belief that I truly have. And when you aren't willing to be the victim, you are willing to lose some victim cuddles in exchange for the growth of the situation. When you get the growth of the situation, it is so much more long lasting, so much more impactful, and so much quicker also. So consider this the next time that you have a story, you know, oh, I can't afford that, or, oh, you know, you know, my husband is impossible in understanding my needs, and I'm impossible at communicating them. You know, I'm really passive aggressive, whatever it is. When you are telling yourself those stories, you're truly shutting off the tap, and in two ways. One is in a subconscious way, and second in a law of attraction sort of way. So, you know, what do you want? Do you want the victim cuddles with the tough life, or do you want the experience the growth and the flourishing that comes with less victim cuddles, but just a better life in general? So this one's a quick right turn. So our stories communicate to us that we are the victim. And then what ends up happening, I find a lot of the time, is you kind of get down on yourself for being such a victim, or for being, you know, so emotional that day, or whatever it is. And we get down on ourselves, and we shouldn't have, and I call it shoulding on yourself. We shouldn't have, and you kind of get to the point where you no longer feel any love or affection for yourself in any way, and you get the things that you need in life by shoulding on yourself and shaming yourself, and that becomes the new way that you create motivation and all of those sorts of things. And it is a counterintuitive feat, my friends. It is. When you do not have compassion for yourself and forgiveness for yourself, you perpetuate how bad it is. And the way that you do that is from the shame and guilt cycle that just sort of spins in the background, and then you get some big wins, some big losses, some big wins and some big losses, as opposed to, you know, a gentle incline, which compassion and forgiveness can give for you. So when we are learning to release our stories and not have quite so much victimization there, that it's then that compassion will need to pop into place. Because when you start to realize your stories, there's a lot of like, oh, you know, bad Chelsea, I shouldn't have done that. And I shouldn't have said this story, and I shouldn't have had this victimization, or I shouldn't, you know, well, I mean, you're shoulding on yourself is what it really is. And when you do that, as I say, you create this, I'm good because I'm listening and my willpower is telling me this is bad. So, you know, we're good. And I'm tired. I'm done. Screw it. You know, I'm going to go back to my old ways. And that's where that comes in. So the compassion piece is many self-help books. This is a huge one for me. And programs leave out a key component, which is compassion. Many of us are not taught how to forgive ourselves. Many of us were taught that self-criticism is the best motivator. And by self-criticizing, we are breaking our trust in ourselves. This leads to a self-fulfilling prophecy. So as you break your trust over and over again, you get to the point where you realize that you can't do anything on your own. And so then you stop. And that's when those goals really start to fall away. And this showed up for me in my cancer journey often because I was such a doer. You know, I did everything for everybody. I never asked for help or for aid around the house, anything like that. And I was really hard on myself, you know, read the book, do the exercise, do the meditation, And I never really allowed myself the relaxation to just say, like, you know what, today I'm going to have a glass of wine and eat pizza. That wasn't a common thing for me. So when cancer showed up, you better believe I felt betrayed. I tried so hard to be this perfect, healthy human. And then here I am, sick. And that shook me. That was not a comfortable thing for a perfectionist to have to identify with, that I was now in some ways broken. I wasn't able to clean my own house. I wasn't able to keep things perfect. I wasn't able to read my books, do my exercise, make sure I'm eating organic and not GMO and all these sorts of things. And I had to really look at what it was to self-preserve and to have that relaxation piece. And so that's what I say when I say a lot of these books. There's a lot of doing, There's a lot of left brain thinking. There's a lot of like, AM do this, PM do this, you know, whatever. Like there's a lot of, you know, do the journaling and then do the yoga and do the meditation and do. But there is very little find the self-reflection and the self-worth within yourself, to be okay with your down moments and to put intentional rest in and all of those sorts of things. And that's that compassion and forgiveness piece that just truly becomes a loop. So it's important to, as you go through these journeys, learn compassion, learn to say, you know, oh, you know, babe, I need you to do the dishes because I'm tired and I need rest. But then not follow with, oh, but I'm obviously a lazy mother and I'm tired and I shouldn't be tired. I should have more energy and all of these sorts of things. And it's really important to give yourself the grace and the compassion to be able to self-preserve and to have that time and that patience for yourself and the people around you, for that matter, the compassion and the forgiveness for them in their stuff, because we all have stuff. And when you have the ability to find compassion for the stuff, that truly is when you can set that intentional rest. And that intentional rest is going to be huge for you starting to shift and change the person that you are and that you're wanting to become within the realm that is loving and having compassion and forgiveness for who you are as in your essence. So once you've done this, so you've had the compassion, you've had the peace where you started to forgive some pretty big things about yourself, it is then and only then we can start the doing. And the first one that I recommend doing is becoming present in your day-to-day life. So what that means is releasing the autopilot and getting into meditative practices and all of these sorts of things. This is, as I say, the more doing, and getting into those meditative practices and finding a way to be an active participant in your own life, finding a way to connect to the type of person that you truly want to be, through getting to the person that you truly are. So what gives you that flow feeling is really meditation. So here's a little tidbit that I realized. I historically have always kind of crossed my legs, done the Anand Mudra, closed my eyes, started with an Om and did my meditation, chanting in Sanskrit or something along those lines. And that's because there's this small little country who has an amazing context of what these words will do for them, and this deep-rooted belief of what this religion will create for them. So this becomes a flow state because they have such a deep belief in it. Whereas for us, we're following these things almost robotically with no deep presence of mind because we don't understand it. We only just know it from a yogic, in a gym sort of way. So then we equate, if you do these things, the meditation will be deeper, but yet you have no belief in it, no deep belief. Well, maybe you do, but I'm saying for the people who don't, that is what I'm saying. So for you, meditation does not need to be the cross-legged Om. Meditation, by definition, is getting into a flow state, into a time when both space and time no longer exist. Time just seems to flow. Suddenly whatever you've been doing is like, how long have I been doing this for? You feel kind of almost out of your body, as if you and the thing are one, all of those sorts of things. And we all have a practice like this. It could be snowmobiling. It could be Canada. It could be snowmobiling. It could be reading. It could be walking. It could be singing. It could be dancing. It doesn't matter. But whenever there's that flow state and things just seem to just sort of pass, that is true meditation. So it's about creating a practice that causes you to go into a flow state, as opposed to a practice that, Om, No, Mane, like blah, 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 all these things you're saying, all these Sanskrits. And that's great if you have a belief system in Sanskrit, but if you don't, then it's really truly not going to help you. So something to consider there. So if you're living in autopilot most of the time, the world is a reflection of our context box. So we've talked a lot about this with the stories. When you're living on autopilot, you are following a river where the banks have already been made. And that's when you just continue to just live life. You wake up, you go somewhere, you get in your car, you drink your coffee on the right side, you turn right, followed by left, and you don't even remember how many lights it's been because you're just kind of in autopilot. And that is truly when you are not in creation process. You are not creating the life that you'd want to be because you're still doing the same thing day in and day out. So it's about becoming present in that moment so that you can construct the life that you would like in the moment, and that is truly when the creation process is at its most fruitfulness. Is when you're in that place of presence. So there are different ways to create presence in the goal that you'd like to be, and they all are around the subconscious mind. So tapping into that subconscious brain. And when you tap into the subconscious brain, the mainframe tells the computer to turn left today instead of right. And that's where that comes in. So that can happen through multiple different ways. There's, of course, your meditation practice. That's the flow state. You can have visualizations, feelings, affirmations, anything that really broadens the subconscious mind, and makes you make these little micro decisions that create the life that you'd like, coming again from that mainframe computer. But the kicker is that you have to do them, and it has to be the one that speaks to you. So it's really, really important. Everything that I teach is always going to be individual to the person. It has nothing to do with this blanket, like, all of us need to do this and then we'll be happy. No, everybody is different, and there's different kinds of learning. So there's auditory, there's kinesthetic, there is reading and writing, and there is, auditory, kinesthetic, reading and writing, and visual. There we go. Makes sense. And when you have all of those different sort of feeling-based centers and all those learning centers, it's going to make it so that these different practices work differently for different people. So if affirmations work for you, amazing. If goal setting with timelines works for you, then amazing. If goal setting with no timelines works for you better, then amazing. But what really matters is that in order to tap into that subconscious mind, it has to be a style of learning that fits for you. And that's where that individuality piece and the identity piece comes in, and that getting clear. So starting to examine before we embrace. So you see now why that would make such a big difference. So consider what that you do, that you love, that time seems to fall away. And as I said, that could be painting, that could be driving, that could be whatever it is that time falls away. That is your meditative process. And that is how you're going to tap into your subconscious mind. So get comfortable with the thing that makes your soul on fire, not the thing you should do or may be able to do someday. So from here, we need to start to move into preservation. So you've understood, you've dug deep, you've forgiven some big things, you've created some compassion around your needs, you've started to create presence and have meditative practices and those sorts of things. Now it's important to put into place boundaries, preservations, things that say, this is the space that I'm working in, and this is what I am and am not willing to put up with. So for most women, because it gives them a sense of purpose, we are called good girls for putting others' needs above our own. So for that reason, we think that we will be worthwhile and we will be loved as long as we continue to put other people's needs above our own as opposed to our own. And in that, if you do that, you're selfish. But if you put other people's needs, you're a good girl. And then again, you deserve the love, right? So that's something to consider in your next exchanges with other people. Where is that coming from, that putting everybody else in front of your needs? So the ability to decide on what you want stems from not being able to receive. As a result, you lose awareness for your desires. So over time, giving, and never really looking deep into what it is that Chelsea wants or that I want, that in a clear way, not in I should want this way, but in a clear way. What do I actually want? That becomes less of a habitual thing that we can do. So you need to exercise it like a muscle, this ability to create preservation, to create boundaries, to, burn brightly and do all these sorts of things. There is that breakdown that needs to happen in order for that muscle to build and become strong. So you do have to push through the discomfort when it comes to setting boundaries. And even though it doesn't seem right and you're nervous, you're going to be bossy and you're not going to be loved and accepted and all of these things, I get it because I know it. It is so important to instead see that the boundaries that you are setting are for the purpose of your self-preservation. They are for the purpose of having this beautiful life that you'd like on the other side of it, as opposed to playing small all the time for fear of not being liked, which is a really huge perpetuant of a lot of sadness and loneliness and those sorts of things that we have in our life, is this need to be liked. That could be another slide on it all on its own. So a question to consider is, do you allow yourself intentional rest? So do you put a time for the set a boundary and say, I need this intentional rest, and to put yourself first in that way, as opposed to saying, oh, I'd love to communicate my needs, and I'd love to be this person who's so great at communicating their needs, but then you say no to any intentional rest and just continue to give, which is telling your subconscious mind the story that you don't actually have a need for this. You don't need to communicate your needs because you're doing just fine putting everybody else in front of you. So do you allow yourself that intentional rest? And if not, consider that your body needs it anyway. You truly need to be able to have that intentional rest. And if your body needs it anyway, most of the time what ends up happening is just through a breakdown, you end up procrastinating anyway. So scrolling through Facebook, shopping, doing all these sorts of things. Whereas if you instead just set aside that intentional rest, like an intentional rest. And what I mean by that is time when you say, I am sitting for 15 intentional minutes. I'm not talking about a day. I'm not talking about an entire night. I'm not talking about anything, just whatever. 15 intentional minutes where I am going to rest, and I'm not going to allow anything to impede that space, and I'm going to set that boundary. If you do not do that, what ends up happening is you take 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes procrastinating and spinning, as opposed to taking that intentional rest that could have gotten you to the other side much more quickly. Okay, so you have learned to preserve. You have learned to set your boundaries. You have done all of these things. We've become very self-respecting. Only then, after all of that, can you begin to burn brightly in your own life. Can you begin to say, I am bold. I communicate my needs easily. I have strong self-worth. Money comes easily and frequently. Whatever the things that you have learned to say, these affirmations that you learned to say, there is that examining process, that self-respecting process, and then there's the getting process and the doing. And so it is really important to work that way, from the being to then the having, as opposed to just trying to jump to the having, because your identity doesn't support it. So when you want to burn brightly, many of us believe that if we like ourselves, we'll come off as conceited or boastful. Our fear of not being liked is the number one thing that holds us back from our light. In reality, burning brightly is what allows others to do the same. So the question to consider is, consider someone that you love to be around, somebody who just lights you on fire. They are just your favorite human to be around. I would guess that the way that you describe that human is magnetic, that they are confident, that they are bright and big, and their soul is huge and shows up in a room. So if that is the case and they make you feel so, so good, then does that not lend hand that potentially if you showed up brightly, that your friends and family could feel that same magnetism? They have that same sort of like, boom, like I love being around this person because I feel better inside as well. And it becomes that give and take flow of energy, that beautiful burning brightly. So at this point, we start to change over from the examining, the more introspective work, to the burning brightly. And this is where your stories come in, having to tell different stories so that you can support this person who is now so bright, having to have the compassion for the moments when you maybe don't follow through in a way that you expected that you might. That's where the compassion, forgiveness, and all of those sorts of things need to come into place. And when you start to really burn brightly, you start to exercise that muscle that says that you are this communicative person who is able to communicate your needs and who is easily will attract money, fame, fortune, friends, you name it, whatever it is. And when you can create that, when you can bridge that gap, and that is what's missing, my friends, from all of these books. When you can bridge that gap, then now we have to start living unapologetically, even though it's freaking terrifying. You just gotta keep showing up. Stop telling yourself stories that you can't. Just keep showing up over and over and over again. Make a better choice. This week is very much on choices, making better choices to be the person that lights your soul on fire, that opens your heart. From here, you will have lots of moments in time where you do not feel that you are measuring up to the person that you said you wanted to be. And all these stories are going to come in, always. You know, the ego is going to pop in and say, nope, 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 this is uncomfortable. You don't like it here. We need to pull back. We don't want to do this. And that is where the commitment and the integrity needs to come in. And something that a lot of us aren't taught is to be integral with ourselves. When you say that you are going to start to communicate your needs, and when you say that you are going to get better at asking for help, and all of these sorts of things, it is so important to remain integral to yourself for that promise. We all understand what it is to be integral to other people. I will be here at this time, so you're there at that time, or at least you try to be. If you're me, you're like 5 minutes, 10 minutes late. But when you are really, really integral with your word to yourself, you continue to build trust that it is something you can do. So when you're starting to make these decisions, I'm going to floss my teeth all the time, I'm going to burn brightly, I'm going to communicate my needs, etc. You do have to remain integral to yourself. So when your stories come in that say, I don't deserve this, I can't have it, all of these sorts of things, you have to show back up relentlessly. And you have to prove to yourself that you are here for you and that you are here for it, and continue to show back up unapologetically, no matter how many times the stories tell you not to. Now you can set aside some intentional rest. That's that compassion piece. But once you have set aside your intentional rest, you go back to your commitment and back to your integrity. So we live in a culture where integrity is not valued by ourselves or others. Flaky isn't acceptable. This creates distrust in our world and ourselves, and ultimately discouragement. Being 100% committed requires getting comfortable with the discomfort and really showing up for ourselves. So a question to consider is, where in your life are you holding yourself back because of fear of failure? So telling yourself a story that keeps you small so that you don't have to show up. And then when you finally decide that you're going to show up, you tell yourself that you're going to show up, which, number one, you created a small goal in the first place because you didn't do all the examining. But second, at the first sign of struggle, you quit, which is fine if you make a mistake, but then you have no compassion, no integrity, you can't forgive yourself, and you quit. And this is what I mean to say when we are changing growth. When we want growth and lasting change, there are really important pieces that I believe are missing, that I learned during my cancer journey that I'm sharing with you now. Oh, so I guess I already talked about boundaries. So setting standards for how people are to treat you is a lot more well received than you would think. Once I started creating boundaries, I thought that it was going to be this thing that everybody was just like up in arms about. And yet it was so simple and it was so well received. And I was actually congratulated for it because finally you didn't have to guess what I was thinking. So you'll be surprised what the boundaries do for you and the communicating of your needs. Again, this is something that happens later after the examining piece. It's so important. So with every situation in life, we have to choose to react as a victim or choose self-respect. You get a choice and you do have to make it. So when you set a boundary, you are setting an energetic signature for your life. When you were small, you were taught to listen to your elders no matter what. Is that correct? Because that was correct for me. How have you carried that into your adult life? What ended up happening for me was I started to create a mindset that my needs, for whatever reason, just weren't as important as everybody else's. And I think that was the elders thing. And that's fine. And that's part of who I was when I was growing up. But I'm making a better choice. I've decided that I am the elder now, and that I can do what it is that sets my soul on fire, because the only person who can take care of me is me. So consider, is that maybe something that maybe helped to create distrust with creating any boundaries because you weren't allowed to? So once you begin to really embody you, become that mindset mastery person, that guru, that person who is always showing up for yourself, it's then that your intuition will start to become something that is easily received from you internally, because you have a space that is just more hospitable for it. So let's talk a little bit about intuition so far. So intuition is what they call a gut feeling. So that gut feeling is the response that to stimulus in some way. And what I find is a lot of the times there is a lot of meaning making nowadays, and you get this gut feeling, and this gut feeling tells you don't do it, so you stay small. But in actuality, the gut feeling, unfortunately, is a little bit of a response to fear. And there are some people who can feel their gut in a non-judgmental way, and then they're able to decide whether or not it's fear or not. Whereas for me, anyway, gut feeling, it doesn't work for me. Instead, I have to think of what feels expansive and what feels contracted. And that one works better for me than the gut feeling. Whereas for me, the gut feeling is often just a response for fear. So know that as you go through this journey, that your body is going to continually tell you, don't grow, don't be big, don't show up, this is going badly, you need to run, you need to go back to where it's safe. And just know that oftentimes that is a response to fear, and that is your ego trying to keep you small so it can keep you safe. And the ego is not a bad thing. As I said, it is what keeps you safe. It's a good thing, but it's important to know when it is and is not useful. So I will never pretend to say that the ego is not a good thing. It is important. It just has a role, and we've led it too far into our lives through lack of awareness. So have a goal in mind is essential, but labeling can be harmful too. So that's going back to what I was saying with the different styles of learning and the different ways that things can show up for you. So it's really important to understand that this is unique to you. So the way that you feel intuition is going to be so unique to you. Is it expansive, contracted? Is it gut feeling? Is it visually seeing like a vision? Is it hearing almost like a voice that says do or do not? What is it that's giving you that intuition piece? So that will generally show up right away. So that'll be, you think a thought, that's what I'm going to do. Follow that intuition. It's really important to create that self-trust so that you can understand that, that when something pops up, just do it. I love that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method. I can't remember who does it, but if she thinks of something 5 seconds and hasn't decided against it in 5 seconds, she's doing it. But once you begin to talk to friends and family, that's usually when this judgment comes in, this fear response, and those sorts of things. Okay. So consider, how does intuition come naturally to you? Is it a feeling? Is it a knowing? Is it a hearing, or is it a seeing? And whatever that fits, like whatever makes the most sense to you out of that list, that is your intuition. So it's important to listen to it. How are we doing for time? So once we have moved through, we have examined, then we embodied. Now we need to embrace. And that is that integration of all the different things. And you will see through this process that there are fears that pop up for you, that you will outgrow your friends and family and all of these sorts of things. And truth be told, that is not the case. You instead pull and draw different things from each other than you did before as you grow. And I mean, of course, there could be a relationship or two that maybe needs to end, but most of the time it's actually quite the opposite. It truly is that you just morph and change so that you both mutually benefit each other in a different way. Because somebody who is truly 100% embodying themselves, they are able to move through life in a way more compassionate way. And the way that I kind of describe it is that, as I say, this mountaintop that I believed that I needed to get to in order to be fixed. And what I mean by fixed is just level, happy, never really upset anymore. No more jealousy, no more sadness, no more comparisonitis, all of these sorts of things. I would say that I believe to my core that I have arrived. And I think that cancer is what got me there. However, what I found out is at the top of the mountain is that nothing changed. I am still the same person. I still have the same fears. I still have the same insecurities. It still terrifies me to do things like this. But I'm able to look at it from a completely different way, from a place of that is neither good nor bad. It just is. And when you start to see life that way, that person that you were fearful that you might have to end the relationship with, most of the time you see them with more compassion because you see yourself with more compassion, if that makes any sense. So this is the integration of all things. So the question to consider here is, what would your relationships and friendships look like after applying this work? How could it be that you could integrate, you could learn to communicate those needs, to have that deep self-worth, and to feel like you are on top of it, like you are there, you're with you, and you're your own person's friend for once. So those are the 10 key components that I truly attribute my growth and lasting change to, the thing that was missing. And a couple of those are like biggies that were really, really missing in the process. And I would say that for myself anyway, the big ones that were missing was the compassion, the preservation, and the boundaries. Those were huge. So that's something that I'm here to teach you. So why did you come today? I ask you, why did you listen to this recording? What made you want to engage and learn the things that I had to say? Maybe you're frustrated that you've been giving for so long and you just want to learn how to communicate your needs and set those boundaries. Maybe you just haven't felt like you were enough for some time and you really want to feel like you're enough. Maybe there's that self-worth piece that seems to be missing. For me, what would draw me to something like this is the constant need to read these books and watch these videos, and I still just don't feel like I made it. That was a really big one for me that would have drawn me to something like this. Or maybe you're just bored, wanted to see what the heck I was talking about and what I could have learned from cancer. Either way, welcome and thank you. So can these principles change your life? Absolutely, yes. These are the exact principles that I use to get through the hardest year of my life as a happy and thriving person. I'm here in front of all of you, showing up because of applying these principles. And it doesn't matter where you are in life. What matters is that you choose to take action now. So there's an old Chinese story, proverb of the best time to plant a tree was 40 years ago. The next best time to plant a tree is now. And that resonates with me deeply. So what changes? What has changed for me? So my ability to see my stress objectively has improved drastically. I see it from a different way than I ever used to. My self-compassion and forgiveness has changed threefold. That has been the biggest change. The relationships of all kinds have, of course, improved. My ability to manifest has become quite easy. My mind is much more peaceful all the time. It's easier to create good habits. I feel joy with so much more playfulness, and when difficult times arise, I am able to find alchemy in every situation. What has been really, really interesting, however, is that, as I say, I didn't get fixed. Cancer didn't fix sad moments and tough moments and, hungry, angry, lonely, tired. I am still me, but I do see it from a very different way, and that is no longer damaging. And I think that that's a huge thing that I really want to teach people is that compassion piece and this, what would you call it? Resiliency that I have learned that has really, truly set me free. So some big takeaways. So there are key aspects of this work that are rarely talked about that bring about huge success. I've detailed them here today, and they do need, of course, way more depth in order to really, really explain them as the way that I'd love to. But that being said, there was some really great content here. This has literally changed my life, and I do apply these principles every single day. You too can experience your life from a place of curiosity rather than autopilot. You can too communicate your needs more easily and more frequently. So the obvious question is, how can we apply these components to our own lives? How can you put these things into actual motion as opposed to just, that sounds really nice, Christine, I enjoy that, but how do I do it? You have a choice. You can do it the slow way through trial and error. And that absolutely does work. And that is what happened to me, 13 years. Or you can take, and error by taking some of what I've given you here today. Didn't check that slide. Or you can put yourself first and dive deep into this work with me. So Embody You Mindset Mastery. What is it? It is a debut of my 7-week training program, which is using all of these 10 principles and getting in depth with all of them. So I decided that because of everything that I learned, that this deserved and needed way more time than just an hour-long masterclass in order to create growth and lasting change for you and for all of you. I decided that it was the right and just thing to do, and it set my soul on fire, and it opened up my heart to create a course that would encompass all these things and that we could do together, that we could co-create, and that we could work on a very one-on-one basis through a integrative training. So meaning you still get to live your life, you still, go to work and have your kids and do all the things that you need to do, but you are able to integrate this course into your daily life. And as such, after a 7-week period of time, have some real growth, some real lasting change, rather than just enjoying the information and resonating with it. Yes, but your subconscious mind isn't built around it yet. So it needs that time and that repetition in order to start to cultivate these things within you. So we decided to create the program. So it is a small, close-knit group of individuals ready to make a change in their lives. The quickest and most effective way to get from here to there. So the 7-module interactive training course is a 24/7 instant and lifetime access. So meaning when you start the course, then your access is right away, it's on demand, it's when you need it. So it's in the morning, in the evening, in the afternoon, you pick. It is at your fingertips, as I say, integrative, meant to work into your life as it currently is. And then once it's done, it is lifetime access. So when you have lifetime access, any changes, if I add weeks, if I add bonuses, all of these sorts of things, you'll always be able to go back and log in and be able to check what's changed. So it is co-created by myself and you. So what does that mean? That means that I've decided to co-create this. So just as the masterclass would have created in you some like ahas, as well as some stuff that just kind of flew under the radar, as well as some things you had bigger questions on, I decided instead to create a course that is co-created. So meaning everything that we've talked about today is already in place and in the course, but there is huge gaps that are missing. And those huge gaps that are missing are filled in by me and you, done together, so that it is a self-propelled learning in the sense that you are able to expand on the places where you're missing something, or you would like more information, or I didn't maybe explain very well. We can instead move forward so that it really, really integrates for you. And then by the end of it, I've got a course that isn't just my brain. It was mine and multiple other people's brains that were able to create it. You got one-on-one, and I was able to create something that, again, is created for the people by the people. And that is the basis of the course, is these founding members working together. This course will start on, oh, I was supposed to change that. I thought I changed it. This course will start on the 27th, so it must not have saved when I changed it. So yes, so because of the recording issue, I have decided to move it to the 27th. So it is going to be, the cart closes on the 27th rather. So the course begins on the Monday following. Oh, and I don't have my phone to check when that will be. Oh, wait, let's see. 21. October 27th is cart close, and the 1st of November is when we are beginning. Okay, so that was supposed to be changed. So November 1st is when the course starts. Okay, let's keep going here. So this is going to be a brand new style of learning, as we talked about, whereas you explain to me what you want to learn within our curriculum body that I've created for you here, and we'll co-create it each week. It is, again, a close-knit group. There is a lot more one-on-one time with this course. It will never be this one-on-one ever again, as well as an opportunity for never seen again half-off pricing. So because it is co-created and there is some involvement on your part, I'm hoping that you love it and that you are also able to leave a review, and hopefully it's a good one. And if it is a good one, then of course it's a win-win. So I can help to show other people the content as well as you enjoyed yourself. So that is half the reason for half price off, is because we are going to be co-creating, so there will be some effort there, as well as I just want to get started and I really want to help people. And so I decided, as opposed to charging the original $9.97 that I'd like for it to eventually be, I have decided to do it for $4.97 instead. And again, the reason why is because I would like to get this into your hands. I would like to work together to create something beautiful. So because we all learn differently, what works for me might not work for you. I want to make sure that I encompass all learning styles. So that's how, again, we will learn together. So imagine finally getting off the hamster wheel of not feeling good enough, learning to put boundaries in place easily and frequently, learning to come through fear with more ease, to come into yourself with authenticity, as well as learn to live life without apology. So as I said, I intend to charge $9.97 for it eventually when it is complete. But for now, I am going to be charging it at $4.97. The payment options available, I believe I said 1 to 5 payment plans. They're of course interest free. And the reason for that is because I truly want to help and I want to make it possible for all of you. There's a catch to be most effective. I am only going to accept a certain amount of people. So I'm going to accept 15 people maximum. And the reason I had said 20, I decided 15 because truly I really want to create something that is for the people, by the people. I want it to be one-on-one. I want it to be a really close-knit group. So this is only going to be 15 people maximum at the price of $497, which again will be never seen again. So something to consider rather than waiting to when it is bigger and of course more expensive. So bonuses included with the first class. And again, you will get bonuses as time goes by because you do have lifetime access. Bonus number 1 is guided meditations and visualizations made by me, help tap into your subconscious mind, as well as the bonuses number 2. I do have a live guest speaker lined up who has done the work and she will wow you with her commitment and her integrity. It is absolutely amazing to witness. So we do have a guest speaker lined up as well. So with everything, the question is always, is this going to be worth it? So my answer to you is that if you do not feel that it was, you will have 100% money back guarantee. The way that this works is it is a 30-day money back guarantee. So the caveat here is that I need to see that you're doing the work and that you are part of the group and that it is, that you are trying and that it is not something that you're just shutting the tap off to. But that being said, if you've done the work and you still don't feel like it's built you up as much as you expected or wanted, then of course we can discuss and we can talk about it. And as I say, if it doesn't feel like it was enough, then you do have a 30-day money back guarantee as well. So being that this is a recording, you cannot order directly from the webinar and receive a free one-on-one post-session wrap-up call with me. But what I will do instead is when I send this out, I will do 24 hours from when I send this out. So when you receive the email, then with the recording, it'll be 24 hours from when that email says it was sent. So do make sure you check your inboxes right away, and I hope that you do so that you can catch this. If not, there will be an ability to purchase as well, but for now it will be 24 hours from when the email is sent out. So I will put the link for the course if this is something that feels attractive to you, that feels expansive to you, that feels like something that would fit and help you. I will put the link in that email so that you can go straight to it, as well as a couple days after I will send it again. So you do have an opportunity to click right away and get the free one-on-one training, as well as if that fits for you and you've already checked out and all those sorts of things, then I will see that you've done so, and then I will give you the one-on-one for free, as I said. And if not, then the email following will also have the checkout link. Okay. The draw was already done to the ladies who did come to the masterclass, so no necklace anymore, I'm sorry. And then finally, we did some Q&A after the masterclass. And one of the really big ones that kept popping up for questions was along the lines of how do you finally implement this in your life? How do you make that switch from just intellectualizing to doing and having that be part of your identity? And the big answer to that is repetition, repetition, repetition. So when you do things like this course where we work together, it's integrated into your day and it's something that you repeatedly do, that is when you get the long-term gain of it. So it is important to have a supportive community, to have a place where you can continue to repeat this and create better habits and go from there. So that is my answer to the most common question that popped up, which was that repetition is so very important. So I believe that is all I have for you today. Yes, it is. That is all I have for you today. So I want to thank you for sticking with me. I can see that I went over. I want to thank you so much for sticking with me. I think that it was an absolute pleasure to do this a second time, to be honest. The first time, of course, there's nerves and all those sorts of things, and I don't know if I was necessarily able to come across the way that I'm able to come across now, talking to no one but my computer. So thank you so much for being so patient to receive the recording. I promise it's even better than the first time. So that was a really cool add-on as well, an unexpected one, and maybe part of the universe's plan. So that was pretty cool. So I am so grateful again. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. Click the link that I've added to this email so that you can get in for the free one-on-one, get one of your 1 of 15 spots. And then let's get started. So that'll be November 1st. We will begin. And again, this is an integrative course. So remember, you can do it at your own pace. So I'm looking so forward to seeing you all and connecting, and you'll get the emails. They'll tell you everything you need to know, username, your password, all the things that you need. We'll keep in contact. We have a Facebook group, so don't you worry. I'm so looking forward to beginning the first day of the rest of your life.